So a lot of people got upset with
Bill Nye the Science Guy
the other day, or last week, really, because he said something they did not like on his new show. And I'm here today to just kind of, talk about it a little bit. A couple of things that made my ears perk up. So, Bill Nye the Science Guy, he's got a new show. You guys remember who Bill Nye is? Of course you do. I don't really think I need to jog your memory. So Bill Nye has a new show out called Bill Nye Saves the World, which honestly is probably one of the most dick. I don't even know what to say. I mean, is there any way you could suck your own dick any more than that? But anyway, Bill Nye's got a new show out. And in this 13 episode long season, Bill Nye made an episode about gender spectrum, sex, all that jazz, all that bullshit. I personally have only seen certain sections of the episode, so I can't really form a very informed opinion. But that hasn't stopped other people from being really upset with what Bill Nye had to say. But you want to know something? I mean, it's the internet. You can't expect everyone to do in-depth research or at least sit down and watch a 20-minute episode before coming to a conclusion. That's asking for too much. So a bunch of people got upset with Bill Nye. And I honestly have been sitting here scratching my head as I watched the numerous video responses to Bill Nye and wonder, what are you niggas confused, surprised, shocked, or even angry about? I mean, for one, if people are upset that Bill Nye is just now becoming a social justice warrior, well, I must ask, where have you been for the past 3 years? That ain't new shit. And if people are upset because Bill Nye said something they thought was patently false and wrong, I have to ask, well, again, this ain't new shit to people who are anti-feminist or anti-social justice warriors. Bill Nye said gender exists on a spectrum. That's not new shit. We've talked about and debunked this shit time after time. I think the only thing that's really noteworthy is that song that woman, Rachel Bloom, I believe her name is, sang at the end of the episode.
This world of ours is full of choice, but must I choose between only John or Joyce?
Yes, that ungodly abomination.
All my options only, hard or moist. My vagina has its own voice.
Don't do that. Disgusting.
Not vocal cords, a metaphorical voice. Sometimes I do a voice for my vagina. Please don't tell me I'm the only one who does that.
Anyway, so Bill Nye said some things people didn't like, and I'm gonna defend him. So a bunch of people said constantly in their responses to Bill Nye that he's not actually a scientist, and he only has I believe a mechanical engineering degree from I don't remember where he studied. Honestly, I have to say this in Bill Nye's defense. You really don't need a degree in science to tell people how the world works. I mean, let's start off by saying Bill Nye is a presenter. Bill Nye's real job isn't really so much to be a scientist and learn and understand scientific ideas. Really, it's Bill Nye's job to teach children science, or just to teach it to people. And you don't need to actually commit any studies or anything to be able to tell people findings and tell people the reality of the world. So just because Bill Nye doesn't have a degree in biology, it doesn't mean that, if he tells a child, if you eat food, your body, through a series of digestive tracts and digestive processes, takes the nutrients in the food and converts it to energy, it would be right. Mechanical engineering degree or not, Bill Nye would still be correct. You don't need a science degree to tell people what's true and what isn't true. You just need to know how reality works. So saying that Bill Nye isn't actually a scientist, or Bill Nye, doesn't have the credentials, is a gigantic waste of time. He's a presenter. He doesn't write the show. He presents the show. So what's really important is, well, who's writing the show and who's making him say those things. So yeah, you guys are upset with the wrong people. I saw a lot of people who are really, really big fans of science, which is actually a pretty interesting thing that's to be dissected on its own. But a bunch of people who are really into, just believing that they're smarter than what they actually are, is more accurate, talking about how they are really upset or sad that Bill Nye is a leftist now, or a social justice warrior, and that somehow ruins their childhood. Now, this is a concept I can only somewhat understand, and I only say somewhat because, I just kind of leave the door open for someone to open up a counter-argument. But, honestly, first of all, what I really don't understand is, how does anyone really have any strong emotional connection to Bill Nye from the beginning? Like, that really makes no real sense to me, because me, man, like, me, Bill Nye was just some nigga who taught me science. Like, he didn't really mean much to me growing up, and honestly, like, you wanna know what Bill Nye represented to me, dear viewer? I'll tell you. To me, Bill Nye represented a really easy day in class. Like, when my teacher brings in, you know, the VCR and the TV, and she just pops in Bill Nye, that's an easy day. That's what it felt like to me. It means I didn't have to read pages 69 through 84 and answer 3 questions at the end of the chapter. I just had to sit down, just watch Bill Nye talk, and then, you know, go home. An easy day. I don't have any strong emotional ties to Bill Nye, you know, and I really like science too. I mean, I really like learning about the world and animals and different things, but like, this thing of Bill Nye didn't mean much to me outside of, well, I'm just going to have to sit down and just do nothing. So watching people be upset about the fact that that guy, the nigga who just represented an easy day for me, is something I just can't co-sign with. I'm just not disappointed, and I'm not sad that Bill Nye turned out to be this way. In fact, I'm still trying to understand how anyone can be surprised that this would happen. I mean, like, the mainstream is controlled by people who are on the left-leaning, so saying Bill Nye's new show ruined your childhood is just silly. I mean, if you really just want to go relive your childhood, you can probably find Bill Nye's old videos probably on YouTube if you really wanted to. If not YouTube, you can find it somewhere on the internet. So I mean, yeah, just go rewatch the old Bill Nye episodes. You don't need to, you know, be upset about what's going on here. All that said, that's my small defense of Bill Nye. I mean, to be honest, I think you guys are right. I think Bill Nye's on some other shit, and I don't think Bill Nye is correct in that one episode. But that being said, though, I find it very interesting that people cast Bill Nye to the wayside because he said one thing you didn't like in a 13-episode series. I mean, come on, you're telling me that Bill Nye meant this much to you? You like science all that much, but it only takes one wrong opinion for you to cast someone out? Well, shit. Some fans you guys turned out to be, am I right? Anyway, that's enough alienation for now. I don't agree with Bill Nye. I don't think Bill Nye is right. I think it's bullshit. And I'm surprised that we are still talking about this shit. What's really interesting to me was I found a lot of people had a gigantic issue with Bill Nye saying that gender exists on a spectrum. That you have male and female on the spectrum, and you can just go on the gradient and be whatever, I guess, is his ultimate point there. Now, I obviously don't really agree too much with that idea. However, I could understand how someone could lay the foundations or the premise of that, because you can indeed have some men who are more prone or more likely to act effeminately, and some women who act more masculinely. However, I could say that the mere fact that you would even be able to associate those behaviors with the effeminate or the masculine means that there's some difference between men and women, and thus you still have a binary. So even if some acts more inclined to one degree, at the end of the day, in principle, a man would still be a man because of his genitalia and his testosterone levels and a whole bunch of other things that all come together to make him what he is. I would say that, certainly. However, what I find very interesting is that these same people who don't like the idea of a gender spectrum are the same people, and I don't mean to say this as an insult, I don't mean to smack you upside the head with this shit, but I mean, I want you to seriously consider this if this describes you. There's some people who are really big fans of individuals like Blair White. Now, this confuses the absolute fuck out of me, because I mean, if you're okay with a man thinking or saying he feels like a woman and transitions into a woman to obtain breasts and wear makeup and grow hair, if you're okay with that, if you think that that's a thing that men and women can do, then I really am confused as to how you could possibly be fucking upset with the idea that gender exists on a spectrum. Because, I mean, it's not too far-fetched from believing that you can change your entire identity, or you can be born the wrong identity. I really don't see how people can separate the idea that you can transition from one gender to the other is totally fine, but if you believe that there's a spectrum of which you can go into degrees, then, well, that's taking that shit a little too far. So you mean to tell me it's either or? You either go full stop ahead, but the idea that you can, you know, stop on one area, that's too fucking much? That's just something I just don't understand. I mean, if you're okay with transitioning people, with trans people, then why would you then somehow be able to have an issue with the fact that gender exists on the spectrum? Now, of course, from my point of view, I think both are wrong. I don't think either is fine. If that hurts your feelings, then no, that hurts your feelings. But however, when it comes to the whole gender spectrum thing, the reason why I find this to be silly, and by extension, why I find transgenderism to not be wholly accurate to what's going on, is because, well, one, even if you have a spectrum, it implies you still have a binary. You have two gradients, and even if you have anyone sliding in the gradient, they're still either a man or a woman. It doesn't matter how effeminate a man acts. I mean, he still has testicles, he still has a penis, and he still has a Y chromosome. That's it. So there you go. It doesn't matter how you act or how much makeup you wear. Even if you get corrective surgery, or so they call it corrective surgery, you just end up with genitalia that doesn't even work. That doesn't function very well. You can't put a uterus inside of a man and just make his body just, oh, well, all right, let's go. Let's start making eggs. It doesn't work that way. So the idea that there's some kind of spectrum that you can go up and down on is just silliness to me, because at the end of the day, you're kind of stuck in your form, corrective surgery or not. You just end up with genitalia that doesn't work. That's why I'm not a fan of it. And by extension, trans people, transgenderism. Which again, I'm not saying, it hurt your feelings and make you feel bad or anything. And I'm not bringing up the whole thing that people like Blair White, to smack you upside the head with it. But it is a point to consider. I mean, if you're okay with that, if you're okay with that type of person shouting your ideas, I find it very interesting that you can then be upset with Bill Nye saying gender exists on a spectrum when the two ideas are not too far from each other. Another thing that's been bothering me a lot, and I see a lot of people say this so much, and it just makes me want to smack the hell out of them. I've seen so many people reply to the idea of 69 or 60, was it 76 genders? I don't remember any fucking genders. I've seen a lot of people say that that's silly. That saying that we have 76 genders is just stupid and dumb. And then they'll respond to that point with, no, we only have 2 genders. And I just sit here like, nigga, do you listen to the words that come out of your mouth? Like a lot of people are gonna get upset with me, and that's okay. You're just gonna have to be mad. But you realize both of you guys are wrong. You understand that, correct? If not, I'm gonna explain it to you. There are not 2 genders in the same way that there are not 76 genders. No, human beings don't have genders because gender is a linguistics term. Words have genders. Humans have sexes, 2 sexes. And even if you're intersex, you're still stuck in between one or the other. It's like 1.5. It's still 2. You still can only get 2. So yeah, saying that there are only 2 genders is just wrong in itself. No, words are gendered. And words are gendered or conjugated in relation to their gender when talking to someone of a specific sex. Look at the language of Spanish. Right, Spanish is it's my only secondary language, and even then I'm not very good at speaking it. But I know you have to conjugate words based on their gender, okay? And I'm sure there are other languages that are exactly like that too. I'm pretty sure Italian would be the same principle, because Italian and Spanish, from what I've heard and seen, aren't too far apart from each other. I digress. The point that I'm making is gender is a linguistics term. It is not a word that should even be used to describe human beings. So no, there aren't 2 genders. There's 2 sexes. A lot of people think that's a nitpick, but it's not. Because gender and sex are oftentimes used, one, as if they're interchangeable, and simultaneously as if they're 2 different things. And that makes no fucking sense at all. And yet people say it all the time. They use male, female, man, woman, boy, girl, as if they're all interchangeable, as if they all mean the same thing. And then they'll backstep and say, no, gender is how you feel about your sex, or gender is how you feel you are presenting. And sex is what you were born with. But then but gender and sex are so intermingled with one another, it's almost as if you can't even separate the 2. I mean, they use the same words, they mean the same thing, but then you come down to the conclusion that they're not the same fucking thing. What kind of sense does that make? So, no, gender is not sex. Sex is your biological components. And the reason why we even categorize things by their sex is to understand how their function and reproduction. That's why. So gender itself as a concept actually applies nothing and does nothing for our understanding of reproduction. So there's really no reason to even use the terms, and once again, it's a fucking linguistic term, so you don't use it for humans or biological organisms. So yeah, that's my video. Just kind of correcting a couple of nitpicks that I had. One, Bill Nye not being a science guy is just meh. I mean, Bill Nye is wrong independent of whether he went to Harvard or not. Second, Bill Nye can't ruin your childhood. I mean, if you're really that bothered by the fact that he's a social justice warrior now, again, I have to ask, where have you been in the last 3 years? But don't let it. Don't. You really shouldn't have an emotional connection with this nigga anyway, or any person. I mean, if you really feel that strongly about Bill Nye, I can only imagine how you feel about your actual science teacher. You know, the person you spent, I don't know, hours with throughout the week. You know what I mean? And finally, humans don't have genders. People should just kind of move away from that term entirely. I mean, I know they're not, but I mean they should. Yeah. And no, I'm not going to talk about that Rachel video. I'm not going to do it. It's been done to death. People have already made fun of it. I can't take it. It's one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life.
'Cause my sex junk is so much more than either.
Nah, it's just like it's disgusting. It's really bad. I don't know how this woman could have performed this and not have been embarrassed. That's the only thing I can say about it. Just turn it off, man. Just turn it off.
Power bottom or a top off. Versatile love may have some butt stuff. It's evolution, ain't nothing new. There's nothing taboo about a sex stew. No, I can't. No, it hurts. Just make it stop. Please make it stop. It hurts.
That's all I gotta say about it. So if you were one of the very few audience members who was wondering what my take on this was, that's my take. I'm not upset with Bill Nye. I saw this shit coming 3 years ago, or I saw he was a social justice warrior for 3 years now. I'm not shocked. I don't understand how anyone can be upset with this shit. It's nothing we haven't heard before. And gender is a term for words, not for people. So that being said, man, I just hope you guys enjoyed today's video. And if you did, man, go ahead and click the like button. Yeah, shoot, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. And as always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.